Welcome to Soltron. This is the video review for Mini Force Jawscop. Here's how he scales with a Carbot sonar diver, I think is the name of that figure, and then Transformers and the Right Armor Megalodon. I forgot to look at Leocop's box in the last video. It looks like this. Pretty eye-catching box. So very nice but very typical window with a silver background. And then here's Jawscop's box. So very nice package art. Very simple, just alt mode, robot mode, not much else going on here. Here's a look at his head sculpt. So it's a pretty excellent looking head sculpt, and you can make out his orange eyes in there. So it's pretty cool look to it. Kind of looks like a shark or, again, Astro Megazord kind of look to it. But he's got his mouth plate, he's got his chin, this little translucent blue plastic here. This was actually misassembled when I got mine. It was unpegged, so I had to open up his whole chest and then unscrew his head to fix his chin and peg it back in. But not too big a deal, but it was a little bit of a hassle. But I really think this is an excellent head sculpt. And the body in general just has such a really stylized, fascinating look to it. It doesn't look like anything else I've seen for Mini Force. He looks like a completely different robot, which I appreciate that they're doing something a little bit different, even though he does have that mouth plate like all the Mini Force figures have. But he looks like he's from almost a different line. So just really cool style to him. So I personally, I think this robot's a 10. He looks really, really interesting. So I did check the directions, which are pretty bad, by the way. They're just like these ugly paper directions that feel really cheap. And I did mistransform his feet. He's supposed to have these fins, are supposed to face forward. And if you're looking at this, you could probably already see the problem. So that makes these the heels, which are not very good. Oh, and so he can stand with those facing forward, which don't even look like feet. So I don't know why you'd want to do that. But that's the correct transformation. And then this is supposed to, I guess, help stabilize him. But he falls over very easily like this. So he's doing okay now. But this is the way his fins are going to face when you transform it. And now he's pretty solid. He's not going to fall over. So I don't know why you'd want to face these forward. It's really pointless to me. This is just so much more stable. So really excellent aesthetics. He does have this huge kibble in the back and then all this junk here. So not completely streamlined. And then on the back of his legs, he's got like the top of a shark head. And then he's got the shark jaw in the way. So he does have a lot of random junk just hanging off his back. And then he's got, of course, the entire shark tail. And then these little side panels are also back here. So he's just full of back kibble, unfortunately. So really, I think if I'm being honest, maybe I have to rate him a 9. But his aesthetics are really cool. He looks like a robot from an anime. And he's got some pretty big issues. So his aesthetics are really great, but his articulation is very questionable. So first off, you have no head articulation, and there's really no excuse for that. They could have easily made this head rotate here. I forgot when I was taking it apart if they... It just takes like a little bit of modding, I think, and you'd get a head rotation. But this chin piece right here kind of gets in the way too. So you could probably just make the white part of the head rotate and leave that chin piece there. So I don't think it would take very much modding to get this head to rotate. And this whole head is attached to this tail section. So that's attached to this black collar here. So you'd have to make it so just the top of the head rotates. So if you disengage this, You can kind of rotate his head. Yeah, it's very awkward because there's all this junk in the back of his shoulders that's crashing into this. But yeah, you can get his head to rotate. So really, the reason his head doesn't rotate is because of this giant chunk of plastic back here. So if it wasn't for this, he could actually have pretty good head rotation if this wasn't attached to his collar piece. So I don't know if you can count that as head articulation. I don't think so. And then he does have full shoulder rotation, thankfully. He does have a little bit of outward. If you bend it forward a little bit, you can get around this big backpack. So you can get a full outward motion there. Of course, he does not have bicep swivels. He does have an elbow that's less than 90 degrees on a ratchet. And then, this kind of irritates me, is they kind of designed this on purpose. They could have, this is already a separate piece. They could have easily made this a wrist swivel. But the way they designed this wrist cannot swivel. It's just a separate piece of plastic. Why would you disable that articulation? And then you get this piece for transformation. And then you do get finger joints. That's also mostly for transformation to kind of get the fist out of the way. I guess you would disable the wrist because it makes the robot a little bit less chunky, or it makes it less consistent. I don't know. At least he doesn't have curling iron arms. His elbows actually bend the correct direction and his fists are facing the right way. He does not have any waist articulation. He does have a little bit of outward, but because of these huge hip skirts, he's not going to be able to kick that far, which is kind of a pointless piece of articulation anyway. And let's get his arm out of the way. He can kick this far forward, so a good 90 degrees forward. And then backwards, you can almost get 90 degrees, but all this backpack junk gets in the way. And then to get his knee articulation, you have to move this jaw out of the way, the bottom jaw, and then you can get his knee articulation, which is about a little less than 90 degrees. And it's got kind of like a double joint knee here. But overall, you're only going to get about 90 degrees, and you got all this junk in the way. And then nothing really in the feet, just transformation joint. And then you do have thigh swivel, which is nice. So articulation is pretty disappointing on this guy. Just everything gets in the way. So you're not going to get a lot of good action poses from him, unfortunately. Transformation on this guy is a little bit of a pain because there's so much stuff that just gets in the way in so many little panels. But you're going to kind of move the shoulder out of the way and then move these panels to kind of release the tail section, and then you have to rotate this tail section, put it kind of up against the head, and then you rotate the whole thing around, and this is going to become the top of the vehicle mode, so that's about where the tail ends up. And then you can just rotate the arms down, and then these fins on the shoulders can go up, and then you can rotate the toes of the feet down, and if you have these up, you need to rotate them down now. Actually, yeah, that's right, I got confused. So this is still the top of the vehicle mode. You're going to bend the knees the wrong way on their double joints. So it's funny, the knees can actually bend better if you bend them, if you break them and bend them the wrong direction. That's, I don't know, not the best design. And then these parts on the back of the knees are going to become the top of the jaws, of course, and then the bottom of the jaws here. So let me do that on the other side and just neaten everything up. Okay, I did the same thing on the other side, so now he's cleaned up. You're going to close the shark jaw, and then you can see the front of the vehicle is all taken care of. And then you're going to fold up these back panels, and this is actually an issue for me too, is these panels are on clear plastic, and the first handful of times you transform this is on a ridge. This takes a lot of force to bend this, and because this is clear plastic, I don't think it has a lot of flex, so you got to be very careful when you're bending this. I even unscrewed this screw a little bit to try to loosen it up, but you got to be very careful when you're flexing that because it's on clear plastic. And then those are going to go up there, and then you're going to compress his midsection. So his waist is going to compress into the chest. So you just compress all that. Oh, these toes are in the way. I didn't fold them up enough. So you fold up the toes all the way. And then the whole front end just compresses. And that's going to put this side panel so it clips into this right here. So that cleans up very nicely. And then you put the tail, you bring it as close as you can to the front. There's always going to be this weird gap here. It looks like it should close snugly, but it just doesn't. And then there's double joint on the shoulder. So a double hinge, so that moves into this place right here, and that clips nicely into place. And then these top fins are going to plug into the tail section. And then finally, the arms are going to move back like this, and then you have to open the fist and then rotate the wrist right here to go up here behind the tail. So it's going to look like that when he's all transformed. Okay, and then you still see this gap here in the tail, but that stripe is supposed to be there, and everything's transformed correctly because this pegs into this. So there's no way that this gets any closer. But overall, your vehicle mode looks like this, which is kind of a doofy looking vehicle, but it's kind of cute in a way, and again, looks like a Mega Man boss. And then it can open the lower jaw, which is nice, and then the upper jaw can also move forward if you want to break the sculpt, so you can get a huge bite. So, pretty cool looking. I like this one a lot more than Leo Cop. And speaking of Leo Cop, here he is. They're the same size. Maybe what I don't like about Leo Cop is he just doesn't look like a lion at all. And the shark at least has shark elements everywhere. It's very consistent. They went all out on this shark mode. And then here's Leo Cheetah with Leo Cop, because I forgot to do that comparison in my last video too. So this is kind of like a Japanese style of the same kind of robot. I will admit that this is not a very good looking vehicle either. It is missing the front bumper, but still pretty bad looking. I think Leo Cop might actually win for being a better alt mode. Okay, back to Jawscop. Here he is with Sonar Diver. They look pretty decent together, even though this guy, I would have liked him more if he was a submarine maybe, but. And then here he is with the Megalodon ride armor, so they look pretty good together. And then this little Sentai figure scales pretty well with this shark. It's too bad he can't fit inside the cockpit. That'd be pretty awesome. And then a deluxe size Transformer. He's gigantic in comparison. So I really like this alt mode. I think this is an 8 for me. So it's pretty interesting. It's got a good style. And it looks a lot different than the robot. So I appreciate that. It transforms into something completely different. And if you like this figure, you can order it from eBay, from It's Toy Shop. I'll put the link in the description. And the quality is a 10 out of 10. Solid figure. I have no fear of breakage except for that clear joint right here. These clear hinges. And the transformation is kind of a pain because of all the panels that get in the way, but I still like this robot even with his limitations, which is all caused by all these extra panels.